You're listening to the micro version of the Savage Lovecast. www.savagelovecast.com.
If you're stuck in a relationship quandary, or if you're looking for sexual harmony, well, there's nothing you can't ask on the Savage Lovecast.
Well, he signed it a couple weeks ago on the show. We talked about Mike Pence casting the tie-breaking vote in the Senate for a new law that would allow states to defund Planned Parenthood. And this week on Thursday, President Trump signed it into law. And now states will be able to not provide funds to Planned Parenthood for services related to contraception, preventing STIs, screening for breast and cervical cancer, all to beat up Planned Parenthood. Women are going to die. So now states, and we know which states are likely to go this route, red states, can deny funding to Planned Parenthood, not for abortion, because no federal funds and no state funds go to Planned Parenthood to provide abortions. They're going to deny funding to Planned Parenthood that is spent on STI screenings, breast and cervical cancer screenings and treatment, fertility care for people who are actually trying to get pregnant. All of that funding is going to be cut off. And as a consequence of the law that Mike Pence cast the tie-breaking vote for and Donald Trump signed into law, women are going to die. Which brings me to itmfa.org or impeachthemotherfuckeralready.com. We announced it on the show a couple of months ago. I was bringing back Impeach the Motherfucker Already as a fundraiser for Planned Parenthood, the American Civil Liberties Union, and the International Refugee Assistance Project. And 8 weeks later, it is my pleasure to announce that we are cutting checks this week. We are donating $100,000, which will be split between the three agencies, just from selling t-shirts, buttons, and hats over the last 8 weeks. We're giving $33,333.33 to the International Refugee Assistance Project, $33,333.33 to the American Civil Liberties Union, and $33,333.34 to Planned Parenthood. They are getting the extra penny in the $100,000 because Trump was the biggest asshole to them this week. I gotta say, thank you all so much. Thanks to everybody who got ITMFA buttons, hats, and t-shirts. I can't believe we've raised so much money just selling buttons, hats, and t-shirts over the last 8 weeks. We also now are selling stickers, coffee mugs, and classy enamel lapel pins. So for people who don't wear t-shirts to work with protest slogans or aren't button types but are suit and tie types, you can now wear ITMFA, a little tasteful lapel pin with ITMFA. You can also order them and send them to your member of Congress for them to wear on cable news and on the floor of the Senate and in the House. I'm wearing an ITMFA t-shirt right now myself. I have ITMFA buttons on my backpack and on my jacket. And here's the best part, and I don't have to tell this to people who have ITMFA hats or buttons or t-shirts of their own already. This is for those of you out there who have not yet ordered ITMFA wear or gear, and we want you to because we want to raise another $100,000 for these terrific organizations over the next couple of months. But the fun of wearing this stuff in public is that people look at you when you're sitting there in your ITMFA t-shirt or wearing your ITMFA red hat, and they say, "What does that stand for? What does that mean? ITMFA, what does that mean?" And you get to tell them. And in that moment, when you say, it means impeach the motherfucker already, you've either made a new friend or you've confronted a Trump voter with the reality that he's a really unpopular motherfucking president with plummeting poll numbers and plummeting approval ratings. And you are one of the people who are going to vote to take him out in 2020 and vote to take back the House in 2018 so we can have a real investigation into all the reasons we need to impeach this motherfucker already. Those interactions are so much fucking fun. I have had dozens of them myself. It's the reason why we sell the buttons in 10 packs and really cheaply, really close to cost, so that you can put them in your pocket. When someone sees your button and asks you what it means and they laugh, you can hand them a button so they can wear one too and have that same experience and hopefully get online and order some more for themselves. So please help us keep raising money. Please go to itmfa.org, or if you prefer to type it out the long way for fun, go to impeachthemotherfuckeralready.com. And when you get your gear, take a picture, put it on Instagram, put it on Twitter, and use the hashtag ITMFA so we can find you and share your pictures. Join us in ITMFA land. Have fun with it and help spread the word and help have a sense of humor while you're doing this resistance thing that we're all doing right now. Let's keep it going and let's raise another $100,000 for these 3 terrific organizations. All right, coming up, tons of your calls, tons of my answers, and on today's Magnum edition of the Savage Lovecast, which you can subscribe to at savagelovecast.com, we are having a do-over. I want to call it a rare do-over, but it's actually our first do-over ever. It's on the Magnum. You're going to want to subscribe to hear that. Coming up now. Today's episode is brought to you by ThreadUp, the largest online consignment and thrift store. Get 40% off your first order when you go to threadup.com/savage. That's THRED up.com/savage and enter promo code SAVAGE. Today's Savage Lovecast is brought to you by MeUndies, high quality, super comfortable, good looking undies. Get 20% off your first order when you go to MeUndies.com/savage. This episode of the Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Casper, an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost because everyone deserves a great night's sleep. Get $50 off any mattress purchase by going to casper.com/savagelove and entering the promo code SAVAGELOVE.
Oh, g'day, Dan. It's Brett calling from Australia here. My girlfriend and I have been chatting and we have a question for you. We've noticed a phenomenon online, for example, on Craigslist, of guys who are looking for a wank buddy, essentially someone to watch porn and wank with. Can you explain this psychological side behind this, please? We're a hetero-flexible couple. We're kinky, we're open, but we just can't understand this appeal. Is it exhibitionism? Is it gay? Is it bi? And how does someone being next to you, wanking next to you, how does it add to the experience? Anyway, see you, mate.
I want to start with your farewell. See you, mate. Wanking isn't mating. Wanking isn't fucking, but some people like to watch other people mate. Some people like to see you mate. And wanking is, of course, sexual and is erotic. And there's a lot of porn out there that is just people wanking. And people want to, obviously, see that. They want to watch that. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such a tremendous supply of that. So the appeal of a wank buddy, to me, seems obvious. And it seems as if you've already kind of understood it. You've already read it. You nailed it. It's exhibitionism, and it's potentially gay or bi exhibitionism. It might be a guy who is a tiny bit gay or is bi, but still working through it. And the most that he's comfortable with right now is being in an erotic shared experience space with another dude where their focus isn't necessarily on each other or on each other's dicks, but on the screen in front of them. But there's kind of this ambient same-sex gayness shit happening around them with the mutual rancory and the plausible deniability. Hey, we're nothing gay happening here, nothing bi happening here. We're just two straight guys together enjoying porn and having a side-by-side wank. And if, oh my God, our thighs should happen to touch on the couch, who knows what might happen. What might happen when the match lands in that puddle of gasoline in the sitting room, in the parlor where you watch your pornography. No appeal to you, obviously, but its appeal to me seems to be quite obvious, mate. Oh, and speaking of Australia and wanking and mates, we get a lot of calls from Australia. I get a lot of letters from Australia to my sex advice column, Savage Love. And although my podcast is, of course, available all over Australia, Savage Love, my column, doesn't appear in any newspapers in Australia. And that annoys me very much. If there's anybody out there who's got a newspaper and you'd like to pick up Savage Love, the column, please do get in touch.
Hi, Dan. I have a question for you that's about in-laws and children. My husband is an only child. We live in the Midwest. His parents live in the Southwest. And they've always been kind of quirky folks. They're both estranged from their families by and large. I've been with my husband since 2001, and I've never met a single cousin, aunt, or uncle of his. And his parents also have 12 cats that live indoors with them. So we have 2 sons. They are 2 and 5. And up until now, their Southwest grandparents saw their grandchildren about once a year with occasional Skype calls. Although my husband always had to initiate the calls. His parents have this weird passive-aggressive thing about never being the ones to reach out. My husband even had to call them on his own birthday every year. This year, things got even more unusual. They told us already in the spring that they don't intend on seeing their grandsons in 2017 because they're unwilling and unable to travel because their cats are too hard to leave, both practically and emotionally. It's too hard to find a cat sitter for them. The cats are sick, and they want to spend as much time as possible with their aging cat. My husband pressed them to find out if this was really the reason why they were traveling. He offered to pay for their travel fees. And they said no, basically it's that their cats are like their children to them. I sent them an email privately a couple days ago saying that my husband is worried that maybe he's hurt their feelings or perhaps they're ill and trying to hide it from them, and that it would make him feel better if they let him know if they'd want us to come see them, which would involve foreign plane tickets, hotel, car rental. And as a side note, when they come visit us in the Midwest, we pay for their airfare and they stay with us. They didn't reply to me and they didn't reply to my husband, aside from telling him that they're not mentally ill. They're just choosing their cats over us. My question is what to tell my husband and what to tell my kids. The kids don't really notice right now that they have these two grandparents they don't see, but I think they will someday. They're going to wonder what's up with these grandparents. My parents live local, and so they see them about once a week. My husband, meanwhile, is sad and shocked and angry and confused that his parents are acting this way. So I just want to know what I should tell my kids someday, if I should actually say your grandparents prefer the company of their cats over you. And what do I tell my husband? Is it best to just consider them mentally ill? Should I tell him to see a therapist? Just not sure what the best thing to do is.
I promise you, your kids don't give a shit. And I think you should model your behavior going forward on that of your children, that this is normal for them, that they have a couple of grandparents who live nearby that they see frequently, and they have a couple of grandparents who live far away that they see infrequently or never at all, who have not been a part of their lives. You have this idea in your head about what a grandparent ought to be, and you're worried your kids are going to be devastated when they grow up and realize that they have one set of grandparents who weren't the kind of grandparents that their mother felt grandparents ought to be, grandparents like her parents have been to them. Your kids are not going to regard it that way. I didn't see one set of my grandparents until I was 5. I didn't meet them until I was 5 because there had been this falling out, and it had never popped into my 5-year-old head or my older siblings' heads that something was terribly amiss. Our parents just didn't talk about it, not in a dysfunctional secrets and lies, long day's journey into night kind of way, just in a, well, this is the facts on the ground. Here are your grandparents who live downstairs, and there are other grandparents who are out there, but we don't get to see them very often. Keep it simple. Sounds like your husband's parents are mentally ill, and it sounds like your husband has been for decades doing a serviceable job of managing his interactions with his parents and limiting his interactions with his parents. I believe that there must be a good reason that your husband lives far away from his parents, and it may be painful for your husband to see the effort or work that you're putting into trying to shove him and his parents and his kids together when he has distanced himself from his parents for his own sanity's sake. So leave it the fuck alone. Let your husband manage this relationship with his own parents. Have a few Skype calls now and then. If you feel like going to see them after a couple of years, go to see them. But for your own peace of mind, and if your children ever ask, yeah, go ahead and round his parents up, round parents who chose 12 ailing cats of a relationship with their own grandchildren, round them up to mentally ill, because that is the likeliest answer. And stop stressing about it, and stop projecting your own hopes and your own thoughts and your own ideas about what a grandparent should be onto your children and their feelings about their paternal grandparents, because I promise you, they don't give a shit. Anyone who's ever been to my house or anyone who follows my husband on Instagram knows it kind of looks like a junk store, like a secondhand shop with a naked guy running around in it, because I love secondhand shops and I kind of grew up hiding in secondhand shops, and all my furniture is secondhand. I love secondhand dishes. I love secondhand framed things all over the walls. I like a crowded secondhand shop kind of looking place. So I get why going to secondhand shops and treasure hunting to find that one piece at a bargain price is a blast. But when it comes to clothes shopping, the hours you spend digging through racks, that isn't so much fun. Until now with ThreadUp. With ThreadUp, you can get name brand items at 90% off from home or work. I just watched Nancy Hartunian, a veteran secondhand store shopper, load up on some dresses for herself and some leggings for her kids. She looked really happy with the experience, because ThreadUp is everything you love about shopping secondhand. The thrill of finding an unbelievable deal, but without having to worry about quality or digging through racks at a resale store or bed bugs. And shopping resale for clothes reduces waste, so it's a boon to smug liberals everywhere. It keeps crap out of landfills. reduce, reuse, recycle. This is the reuse part of that liberal rallying cry. Shop on trend like new fashion from top name brands and designers for up to 90% off retail online at ThredUp. And you can search your favorite brands like Lululemon, J. Crew, Banana Republic, and Ann Taylor. And you can filter your search by size, color, price, style with thousands of new items added every day. ThredUp triple inspects each item for sale by hand to ensure that all their clothes are like new. Many even still have their original tags on. And once you find a great deal and order it, your new items will arrive folded with care in ThredUp's signature polka dot box. So head over to thredup.com today to save up to 90% off retail on your favorite brands. Plus, right now, you get an extra 40% off your first order. Just go to thredup.com/savage and enter promo code SAVAGE for that extra 40% off your first order. thredup.com, spelled THRED up.com/savage. Again, that's an extra 40% off right now at thredup.com/savage when you enter the promo code SAVAGE.
Hi, Dan and Nancy in the Tech Savvy at Rescues. I am a 28-year-old bi lady living in Chicago. I have a partner who I've been seeing for 5 years. He is a man, and everything is really great with him. We're getting married in November. I'm really excited about that. The thing that's happened is we have another person that we both date. We're in an open poly relationship. We have been for several years. We've worked very hard on that, and it works very well for us in almost every other way except for this right now. So we have this other partner who we started seeing. I started seeing her about 3 years ago because I was having threesomes with her and her partner, and then her partner moved away, and so she started seeing me and my partner and seeing us together, and things were really good for a long time, for about 2.5 years. And then now we have a problem where she has to leave the country. She's an immigrant and decided not to apply for a visa to stay any longer. It can be really hard. We know that she's leaving. We care very deeply for her. We both love her. And recently we had a conversation with her about 2 weeks ago about she had been very melancholy and expressed to us that she was feeling very sad about the fact that she has to move away, and that she felt unsure about how we felt about her. And so we had this really good talk, and we were like, we love you and we care about you. But ever since then, it has, I have noticed a real switch has happened where she has now started to refer to us all as a successful throuple. And she's done this several times. I've literally never used that word before. It's not something I'm comfortable with. That is not a relationship structure I am cool with. My partner knows that. He and I have discussed this, and my feelings about this. He and I have talked about this, and I don't know what to do. She started to refer to him as my partner, and I have this visceral reaction. It makes me deeply uncomfortable. I really, really care about this woman, and I don't want to fuck up our relationship with her or fuck her up right before she has to go through this traumatic move that she doesn't really want to be taking, but has to. Well, I don't really know how to navigate this. If she was staying and things were not on this edge, I feel like we could, my partner and I both said we would both just talk to her and be like, look, we need to set these bounds and be very clear about this. But like I said, we don't want to fuck her up right before she has to leave. And we don't we want to appreciate this time that we have that's left with her. So I don't really know how to navigate this. Should I just kind of bottle it in and know that it's going to end, and so I should be okay with it? Or do I talk to her and risk ruining our relationship and ruining her last month in the States? I just don't know what to do.
I'm torn. On the one hand, I want to tell you that this problem is going to solve itself, that your other partner, which is how you describe her, we have another partner. Your other partner is moving home, which with where our country is going right now does not, to me, seem entirely irrational. I'm not sure if she did apply to extend her visa, she would enjoy the process that she would be forced to go through, and it might require her to go home anyway because of the racist, xenophobic shitbags who sees the White House, but that is for the top of the show, not the middle of the show. It's a problem that's going to solve itself. She's going home. Let her think whatever she wants to think. Let her think that you guys are a throuple. Let her think that this is a really successful relationship. And then my worst case scenario disorder kicks in, and I worry for you that allowing this problem to fix itself, allowing her to believe what she now believes about this relationship, which she believes now because of whatever it was that you and your fiance said to her in that conversation where you assured her that you loved her very much and had very strong feelings for her. She was not describing you three as a successful throuple before that conversation. So you guys said something as I think you were trying to be kind to her and communicate to her how much that she meant to you, that maybe you gave her the impression that she meant more to you and was more important to you than she actually is. And now she regards her relationship with you guys differently than she did before that conversation. That conversation was really a turning point. So this is where my worst case scenario disorder kicks in. Allowing this just to play out with her leaving the country. Well, leaving the country was a decision that she made before this conversation that changed how she views her relationship with you two. And that conversation, just as it changed how she views her relationship with you guys, may change her feelings about her plans, may change what she does next. You know, what are you going to do if she marches into your house tomorrow and says, now that she realizes how much you guys love her, because you told her how much you love her, and now that she sees that you three are that rarest of things, a long-term successful throuple, not the rarest of things, but a rare thing, long-term successful throuple, she's not going. In fact, she has a friend who offered to marry her and get her a green card so she can stay in the States. And isn't that wonderful? And now you don't have to endure the heartache, any of you, of her departure. You're going to be together as a loving throuple forever. It's a real risk. I think to protect your own butts, to protect yourself, to protect the primacy of your couplehood, and you are clearly not interested in throuplehood. You are poly in the sense that there is a couple and you have secondary or tertiary relationships with others, but you two are the firm. To protect that, you're going to have to tell her the truth. You're going to have to say to her, love you very much, but we are a couple, not a throuple, and you are someone that we date and see and have very strong feelings for, but this is not a co-equal through a relationship. We are a married couple and you are our girlfriend, and we are the couple and you are the very special guest star. You are the recurring role. You are someone we like very much and would like to keep seeing in this secondary role. In the supporting role, the Oscar for the supporting role goes to you, but not a starring role. Because that may change how she feels. That may actually help her to leave. Because if you guys don't feel about her the same way that she feels about you, maybe she'll have a big sad, but she'll feel better about going home and starting over with someone else. So in a way, the conversation you need to have with her, you may hesitate to have with her for fear of hurting her, and it is going to hurt her. But paradoxically, it's also going to potentially make it easier for her to leave, and the leaving less painful. So maybe it'll be a wash. Maybe she will come out even. Hurt by hearing what it is that you need to say to her, less hurt by then leaving and leaving the two of you behind. Here at the Lovecast, we take you getting laid and we take getting you laid very seriously. And so you got to get some MeUndies. What is or are MeUndies? They're seriously soft, feel-good undies delivered right to your door. MeUndies are designed in LA and made from sustainably sourced micro-modal, the fabric 3 times softer than cotton. And MeUndies softer than soft luxe undies come in an ever-changing selection of classic colors, bold shapes, and adventurous patterns, so you can tailor your undies to your own personal style. And you can save money and time each month with a monthly subscription. Oh, brave new world that has monthly underpants subscriptions in it. And if you're not ready for a subscription, that's okay. You can still save. That's because MeUndies is offering you 20% off your first pair. Just use our special URL, meundies.com/savage, to get 20% off your first pair. So go ahead, revamp your underwear drawer. Once again, that's meundies.com/savage for 20% off your first pair. meundies.com/savage.
Hi, Dan. I'm a 27-year-old female calling from Canada, and I need your advice with a situation I found myself in. I've been seeing someone for about 6 months, and I found out along the way that he's pretty religious, and this translates into some sort of confusing, contradictory ideas about sex. This has come up with a few isolated incidents. He decided about 3 months into the relationship that he didn't feel comfortable having premarital sex anymore and he wanted to stop. I didn't really understand this, but I tried to see it from his perspective and agreed that we could try to continue the relationship without having sex. Unfortunately, one night after we had been drinking a little bit and he came back to my place, he essentially forced himself on me and I pushed him off, and it was okay, but I see that it was sort of not a healthy situation. And had I not been a stronger person, I think he may have gone through with it. He was apologetic after, but essentially said he was really drunk and that he wouldn't put himself in that situation again, i.e. drinking too much and then coming back with me. Kind of that it was the situation and not him. I decided that I could let it go and would just sort of be aware for, like, on the lookout for anything else bad to happen. On a separate incident recently, though, we were both sleeping in the same bed. Oh, I should add that he decided a few months ago that he wanted to start having sex again, ostensibly because it was something that I wanted to do. So yes, we were sleeping in the same bed and he woke up in the middle of the night and I didn't really wake up. And I guess he ended up having sex with me sort of while I was sleeping. I was a bit upset about that and I explained to him why that was upsetting to me. And his response was that he thought I was awake. Otherwise he wouldn't have done it. So obviously these things are not very good, but I don't know if they're just isolated incidents and I need to be more understanding of this like sexually repressed background that he's come from. There's been a few other incidents as well. We had the previous relationships talk and obviously I've had more sex in my past than he has. And the outcome of that conversation essentially was that he broke up with me for having slept with too many people, but then sort of like did some soul searching and decided that he could live with my past and move on. So I guess what my question is for you is, what should I do? Should I stay with him and sort of help him through this like sexual awakening, I guess, that he's having and help him navigate what's right and wrong in a sexual relationship with someone? Or is this showing abusive behavior that is going to get worse or just sort of come back? I don't know. My friends obviously have very strong opinions about this, but for some reason I maybe need to hear it from you.
You don't say how long you've been listening to the show, but I'm going to assume you didn't find my phone number on the back of a business card blowing down the street and just call me. I'm going to assume you've been listening to the show for a while. Most people listen to an advice columnist's show or read the column for a while before entrusting that particular columnist with their problem. So you're a listener. I'm just going to assume you're a listener, but obviously nothing I've ever said on this topic has registered with you, has sunk in. Yeah, you have to break the fuck up with this slut-shaming, sexually repressed, rapey piece of shit. You have to break up with him. You say he forced himself on you when he was drunk and you pushed him off, and maybe if you hadn't been as strong in the moment or as strong as a person that you are, he would have raped you. So it was okay. No, it wasn't okay. It wasn't okay that he attempted to rape you. It wasn't okay that he had sex with you when you were asleep and then said he thought you were awake. I've been sleeping next to the same guy for 23 years. It's pretty easy to tell when someone is asleep versus when someone is the fuck awake. And you fuck them when they're awake, not when they're asleep. I'm sorry. You gotta listen to your friends. You gotta break up with this guy. You are not there to repair him. You are not a sex doctor. You are not obligated to fix this man. Your pussy isn't chemotherapy. Your tits aren't counseling. You're not going to make him better. You're not going to fuck him into a better person. You say you want to maybe hold his sexually repressed hand and help him through the sexual awakening and help him achieve the kind of sexual relationship growth he needs to achieve. Do you know what a very important part of a lot of people's sexual awakening and sexual maturing involves? Consequences. When they shit the bed, it stinks. He has shat the bed with you repeatedly, and now you need to break up with him for those reasons. And then he needs to sit there alone with his dick and think, wow, I really fucked that up by being a sexually repressed, rapey, slut-shaming piece of shit. Maybe I won't be a piece of shit anymore. Maybe I'm going to get the therapy and help that I need so that the next person who is willing to get naked with me, I don't drive off and cost myself that next relationship the way I cost myself my previous relationship by being a slut-shaming, sexually repressed, rapey piece of shit. Maybe I'm not going to be that anymore so that in the future I don't get dumped for that again. So don't think that by dumping him, you are in any way interfering with the awakening that this fucking fast asleep dolt needs. You are participating in the awakening that he needs. You are perhaps by dumping him doing better by him than you are ever going to be able to do by staying. You're staying with him and it ain't getting better. You're staying with him and you're getting this, we should be virgins again. And you're staying with him and you're getting fucked in your sleep. And you're staying with him and you're getting, he gets drunk and forces himself on you, which is never okay. And you're staying with him and you're getting slut-shaming garbage about the numbers of partners that you've had. You've stayed with him. You've tried, and he hasn't gotten any better. Now you're going to try dumping him. I order you to dump him. There are other men in Canada. I've been to Canada. There are other men in Canada. Failing that, there are trees all over Canada. You can break a branch off and whittle a limb into a dildo and fuck that instead. And that's not going to get drunk and rape you in the middle of the night. And that tree branch is not going to slut shame you. It's going to be your best friend. Or if you don't want to risk a splinter, go to Come As You Are or one of Canada's other fine sex toy emporiums and get a toy. But dump this boy. This episode of Savage Lovecast is brought to you by Casper. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the cost. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing those savings directly on to you, the consumer. The Casper mattress provides long-lasting comfort and support, and I know this because me and my husband sleep on one every night. You can buy it easily online and completely risk-free. Casper offers free delivery and painless returns within a 100-day period, so you don't have to lie down in a showroom. And Casper's mattresses uphold the highest environmental production standards, and they're made right here in the USA. You can save an additional $50 as one of our listeners by going to casper.com/savagelove and entering the promo code SavageLove. That's casper.com/savagelove and promo code SavageLove. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi, Dan. I'm 24, live in Texas. I have a question about me and the guy I'm seeing. I've been seeing him since December. Personally, I explore in the BDSM world. I go to a BDSM club maybe once or twice a week. I'm into bondage and rope. I have a rope tying partner right now who I tie with either at the BDSM club or at events. We are platonic. We don't kiss. We just tie to practice tying and to get me more experience and to get me more comfortable. I've told my partner since the second date about my involvement in this world. He's very curious. He's very accepting. He's always aware of when I'm tying with my partner and when the events are. And I always ask and tell him, like, hey, this is where I'm going. I just need advice on how to help him be more comfortable with the idea that I am being tied up by another guy. Still causing him to feel a little weird. I've been sure to assure him that he is my first concern. His feelings are always first. If he's ever weird or jealous or can't handle it that day, that he can be open and honest and tell me. And I would respect him first and foremost. If you just have any other basic suggestions on how to introduce this person I'm seeing to this world I'm also involved in and make his transition or exploration more comfortable, I would really appreciate it.
People who aren't involved in the BDSM community, particularly the BDSM scene that involves play parties, they can't really wrap their heads around the idea that people may do BDSM, may do bondage and rope work with someone that they're not sexually involved with. It is an erotic experience. It is a sensual experience, but it's not an intense sexual connection. And so someone who's outside of that, who has a partner who is inside of that, or beginning to date someone who is inside of that, may assume that there is this intense connection there, this intense sexual connection there, that this isn't the way you describe it and is often described by people in BDSM. This isn't two people who have this shared interest / hobby that, of course, has a sexual component, who are pursuing this hobby interest together, but there's not this intense, romantic, sexual connection, bond, potential that a romantic partner needs to be concerned about or jealous of. In a sense, you are turned on by bowling and you go bowling with this other person who's turned on by bowling, except the bowling is bondage in your case. To help your partner see what this is actually about, the obvious and easiest route is to take him to a couple of these play parties with you, to demystify them. The trick, though, at first is when you go to these play parties, go to one where your bondage partner is or is going to attend, but he's going to attend with someone else that he does this rope work with, somebody else that he ties up. And you and your boyfriend just go and observe. Let him see what the scene is like. Let him see what these interactions are like. Let him see what a bondage scene at a play party like that, where there's not going to be necessarily much or any sexual contact, is about. Yes, it's sensuous. Yes, it's tactile. Yes, it is erotic. It has all of that going, but it's not a lot of kissing, and it's not a lot of fucking, and it's not doesn't end in the missionary position on the floor with ropes scattered all over the floor when you and your bondage buddy play. And then go again, and then maybe go a third time, and that third time your bondage buddy ties you up and your romantic partner is there. And if anyone's bestowing kisses on you, it can be your romantic partner. It would also help if your romantic partner at the first couple of parties that you attended together talked with other people who experience this the same way that you do. Yes, for some, bondage is all tied up in the end with missionary position sex on the floor with ropes scattered around the room. That's the reward, or where it's all going. But there are others who that's the reward itself. The bondage is the point. The bondage is the experience. And it sounds like that's what it is for you, particularly in the context of this relationship. And the only way to get your boyfriend to really understand that is to let him see that relationship.
Hi, Dan. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, calling from the UK. I have a serious problem. So for the last 3.5 years, I've been in a DS relationship with a guy who lives in the States, and he's also my cousin, which for obvious reasons has caused massive amounts of problems. Neither of us can tell our families because Lord knows that would kick up all kinds of a fuss. So we've both been keeping it on the down low for the entire time. In the meantime, he's had various girlfriends, which he's called, beards, like they're not his real girlfriend. They're just so that his mom doesn't suspect anything. But then, he moves in with them or whatever else, and they end up breaking up because they find out about me, and it all gets horribly messed up. So we're 4,000 miles away apart from each other, and trying to kind of keep everything going is incredibly difficult. We do keep having really large arguments, usually because he's crossed some kind of boundary that at some point in the past I've said, this is a red line for me. No, can't go past this point. I can't deal with it. Does it anyway, whether it's, so he used to just go completely kind of radio silent if we would have an argument, or I would say something he wasn't happy with. And mostly that's been sorted. Now there's other problems, and I don't think it's healthy for either of us anymore. But then every time I try and say, we need to put a stop to this, or we need to dial it back, or we need to work out what the hell we're doing, he basically says, there's two options. We can be each other's piece on the side. We can be each other's, boyfriend, girlfriend, but still not tell anyone. But we can't go back to just being family members and just being best friends, which we've been our whole lives. And I don't know how to deal with not having him in my life.
I don't see what the problem is here. I don't see why you guys couldn't be boyfriend and girlfriend, keep the DS stuff to yourselves. Your family doesn't need to know the details of your sexual relationship or connection, but it is perfectly legal for first cousins to marry. In 26 states, those marriages are recognized in all 50 states. It is legal for first cousins to marry in the United Kingdom and in every single country in Europe and in the European Union, in Mexico and Canada. The relationship you're in is not necessarily that controversial. It definitely squicks people out a little bit. That's why there are websites like cousincouples.com, where you will discover that Albert Einstein married his first cousin, and so did Charles Darwin and Franklin Roosevelt. And the British royal family has been marrying cousins, perhaps too many cousins, perhaps too closely related, for a very long time. Habsburgs did too, and that kind of ended in a genetic dead end eventually, but it took thousands of years. You guys are going to be fine. I just think you should go ahead and throw it on the table. Come out to your family about your relationship. Acknowledge that they're going to have perhaps feelings about it and be squicked out. Direct them to cousincouples.com and to other websites that come to your defense or come to the defense of these common relationships. 1 in 1,000 marriages are between cousins, 4 in 1,000 in Japan. I didn't know that until I went to cousincouples.com just now and read about it. So the shame that you guys are struggling with and that's warping your relationship is opt-in shame. And you can opt the fuck out of this shame. And that may mean staring down some familial disapproval, but I've been there. And you know what? It is stare down a bull. And the sooner you come out, the sooner you get stared at, the sooner you can stare it the fuck down. And then you no longer have to run and hide and sneak around. And if you don't want to come out or he doesn't want to come out, then he's not the only hot dom top in all of the United Kingdom who'd be up for a DS relationship with you, one that could have a public face and a public component as well. Don't tell yourself that it's him or nothing, or him or no one else, that you could possibly have the kind of sexual connection you have with him. You can find that kind of sexual connection with someone else. You're likelier to get out there and do the work of actually finding it if you end this relationship finally and forever, if indeed he's unwilling to publicly be your boyfriend.
Hi, Dan. My name is Ariel, and I'm a 27-year-old female from St. Petersburg, Florida. I love your show, and I always said I'd call in with a sexy question, but unfortunately I have one dealing with my parents' divorce. I'm having a difficult time with something, and I need some advice from you guys since you're outside of the situation. April 23rd is my dad's 60th birthday, and his girlfriend is throwing him a surprise party up in New York where they live. About 40 of my family members are going to be there, and she got him all these awesome personalized things and a cute T-shirt to go to the party with, and I know he's just going to love it because he loves that stuff. The problem is my parents got divorced a few years ago, and my mom has chosen to place all of her anger, resentment, and hatred towards this woman, and has even threatened suicide and the termination of our relationship if I was ever to see her in person. I believe that my dad got divorced for many reasons, and the details of his relationship with his current girlfriend, while my mom and him were still married, are a little unclear. Well, I know that my mother is probably being a little dramatic, and I don't think she'd actually take her own life over something like that, nor completely dissolve a relationship with her own daughter. I know that dealing with her emotional trauma is going to be hell for me. She can be very nice and means the best for me, but she's also a very intense person. And although I'm not proud, I could say that many of me and my brother's life decisions have been based off of her emotions. My mom does not know about the party yet, but I know I'd have to tell her just based out of respect. And my family's pretty gossipy, and even if I didn't tell her, word would get back to her eventually. So my question is, did I fall victim to my mother's emotional blackmail and break my dad's heart by his own kids not being at his party, but everyone else that he loves would be? Do I crush my mom's soul by spending time with a woman who's a source of so much of her pain, and then probably take what would be months to rebuild my relationship with my mother? Do I just FaceTime with my dad at the party so that my heart's in the right place, but is that just a shallow cop-out? Other factors to consider for it are that my brother flat out said no when it was brought up if he wanted to go. So it'd probably just be me going by myself, and that might dissolve ties with my brother. My dad only turned 60 once, and it's a big birthday with the surprise celebration making it seem even grander. I know I'm going to have to rip off the Band-Aid eventually and meet his girlfriend and hurt my mom, but is this the right time to do it?
What your mother is engaged in here is exactly how you described it. It is emotional blackmail, and you need to establish some boundaries with your mom. You needed to establish them with your mom years ago, and you should just tell her you're going to this fucking party and let the explosion happen. And if it costs you FaceTime or phone calls from your manipulative mom, well, I don't see how that isn't a win for you in the end. Go to your dad's birthday party, meet his new girlfriend, let your mother have her fucking freak out. And you say this woman, this girlfriend, the person your dad is with now, is the source of so much of your mother's pain. Yeah, it's a source of so much of your mother's performative pain, so much of her weaponized pain. Your mother is able to control you and your brother by being in so much pain about her divorce and about her husband's new girlfriend, and she's never going to stop manipulating those levers so long as those levers continue to work. She's never going to get over the pain that she feels, or the pain that was caused her by the end of her marriage. And this woman, if it's useful to her, and it is useful to her because she's able to control both you and your brother with that pain. Stop allowing your mother to control you with that pain. Acknowledge your mother's pain. Tell her you're sorry for her pain, but You love your father. You are going to see your father on his birthday. You are going to go to this party. You do not want to cause pain to your dad by not having any of his kids at his birthday party. And your mother's just going to, like so many other people whose relationships or marriages came to an end, whose exes moved on to new partners, she's just going to have to get the fuck over it. And you're not going to entertain this any longer. It has been years since her marriage ended. It will always be a source of pain, but you will not allow her any longer to control you like this with her pain.
Just listen to the call of the woman who said that her quote-unquote feminist boyfriend didn't give two shits about making her come. And I just want to say to you, Dan, thank you so much for going after him. I was listening to your response, and I was like, yes, get him, Dan, get him. Oh, my God, fuck that guy.
Hi, Dan. About that bathtub full of semen, there are oodles of hair products and body gels and conditioners with the color and consistency, if not the taste, of cum. I've seen it dribbling down the walls of my shower and contemplated what a visitor might imagine had been going on in there. I just have to wonder how the caller definitively identified the substance on the shower as semen. Did she examine it under a microscope? Smell it? Taste it? That it was some other innocuous substance, especially given its copious quantity, sure seems the most likely explanation to me.
Hi, I'm calling about the cleaning service lady in episode 546 who was really upset that there was cum in the bathtub and wanted to leave consent literature. That was literally the most absurd thing I've ever heard in my life. And for being a cool, hip, pansexual cis chick, that's a pretty fucking douche move. If you have a cleaning service, you have to clean everything, and I'm pretty sure this person wasn't trying to come everywhere just to have her clean. Like, what happens when I take a shit and there's, like, a little bit of, like, stuff left over? Like, am I supposed to apologize to my cleaning lady that I forgot? That's mortifying. So she should take a chill pill and either stop going and not say anything or just chill the fuck out.
And we're going to leave it there. 206-302-2064 is the number here at the Savage Lovecast. If you'd like to record a question or a comment for a future show, give us a buzz. 206-302-2064. If you want to hear more from me about politics, be sure to subscribe to The Stranger's weekly political podcast, Blabbermouth, hosted by Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Eli Sanders, featuring me and Rich Smith. Goes up every Wednesday afternoon. The call for submissions for Hump, My Little Porn Film Festival Hump 2017, is up. Go to humpfilmfest.com for information about making and submitting a film to this year's Hump Film Fest. Follow me on Twitter at FakeDanSavage. Follow Dr. Rachel Gelman on Instagram at PelvicHealthSF. And finally, a quick shout out to everyone at Oxballs who listens to the show while they're at work. Hey guys, see you at IML. All right, Savage Lovecast produced every week by Nancy Hartunian and me and the Tex Heavy at Risk Youth and Nancy. I'll be back at you next week for an installment of the Savage Lovecast. Thanks for having me.